field to make us the very best we can be, not only in the back end, but as a defense and as a team. And so everybody knows, especially, obviously, it's a safety-driven defense. Everybody has their own little niche, but as a safety group, we got to be able to do more than one thing. So right now, we're still in the evaluation process, and it's a fluid situation.
You guys are going to bring in great players every year. You're Ohio State. But what's the reception like, and what's the message like to the team, the guys who have been here for 2 or 3 years, when you bring in a guy like Jihad, who's got starting experience at the Power 5 level, and then you say, hey, this guy's coming in, but also everything is open because it's still January. Like, what is that conversation like with the guys who are already in the room?
I think it's the old adage, iron sharpens iron. You come to Ohio State to be the best. You come to Ohio State to win national championships. You come to Ohio State to play in the National Football League. You come to Ohio State as a DB because we're best in America and the long line of great players that have come through here. So when you step in the door that this is what it is. And each and every year, each and every day, each and every minute, you got to bring your very best. That's what makes us who we are. And for me as the coach to see young men each and every day, like this morning at 6:30 during our running, that guys are grinding, guys are working. There's no substitute for that. So for guys that come here, whether they signed as a freshman or whether they came in as a transfer, they understand the expectations, they understand the magnitude of each and every day. You got to bring it. And I don't want to be anywhere else but a place like that.
Perry, you lost Rocket obviously, but you got Lathan, you got Josh back. Did you expect that? How happy were you that those guys returned? You got a deep unit. Right. You kind of just feel generally about you.
First and foremost, I love the young men. They've worked extremely hard. Obviously, Lathan coming back. Young men have to understand where they're at, and they got to be comfortable with, there's still more growth for me. There's still more I need to do in order to finish what I started here before I go on to the next level. And Josh is the same. There's some things he wants to finish. There's some things he wants to accomplish as a team as well as individually. And so, but that's their decision. And it's just cool for me to be able to sit down with them and say, hey, Coach, I want to come back. I feel I need to come back, and these are the things that I feel I need to do for the team as well as myself to prepare for this year to win a championship and also next level.
How Josh in particular, he gets hurt 21, and a big part of that has been high expectations for last year. The process of getting him, keeping him mentally, the right way, and then seeing him come back. How big is that?
Relationships, having clear, concise communication, being able to keep everything in perspective, and so like I said, for him, the opportunity to come back and have a chance to first and foremost win a championship with his brothers, and then two, be a better football player, continue to develop to be the very best version of himself. So I'm excited, and to see him running around this morning and working out and with a smile on his face. It's encouraging, and there's a long process within this, but I've seen good things from him so far. It's the life we live. Me being a DB myself, you play DB long enough, you're going to get beat, and it's how you respond. Obviously, the magnitude of that game magnifies that specific play. You just bounce back. You got to have a short memory. It's just like a quarterback that throws an interception. You got to bounce back, and really and truthfully, how you respond is going to be the defining, moment and outlook on who you are. One, first and foremost, as a young man, and then two, as a football player. So, obviously, it was disappointing, and he's made a million plays, and that was one play that we didn't execute at a high level. And I say we, because I'm very much involved with it as him. And he just bounced back. He's determined to be even better. And that's the thing I love about him. He's resilient, he's tough, and we don't make excuses. We didn't execute the way we needed to, and we're back working to make sure that those things don't happen.
It was Sonny. You guys have spoken highly of him all year, but that's still a 17-year-old who's not supposed to be here. And then he's
you earn everything you get here. Nobody's given anything. You earn what you get here. You earn what you get in the secondary. You earn what you get in the safety room. So there's no handouts. And the thing, like I said, I appreciate most about Sonny is he came in and worked. There was no entitlement. Yeah, he was the #1 player and all that, but you would have never thought that the minute he stepped foot in the door. So he earned the right to be on that stage and play the role that he played. And that's just a credit. I tell guys it's not about their age, it's about your mindset. And he has a great mindset, and he's very coachable, and he wants to be the very best he can be. So, what you saw that night was something that he earned. And that would be continue to be the case moving forward for all the guys in the room.
And that skill set, I find he's a very different product.
Right.
Most safeties in the country are. When you have something like that, does it kind of get your mind thinking about not just what you can do with him, but maybe how that impacts the way you want to use some of the other safety positions, depending on where you want to put in that?
Yeah, I'm thankful for his mom and dad. A little DNA there, but no. The thing for Sonny is, he's smart. His football IQ is extremely high to be that young, and that's a credit to, his coach. That's a credit to his dad. That's a credit to his upbringing, and that's a credit to his great focus and discipline. And so the exciting thing is we haven't really even scratched the surface of what he can be, and I can see him being. And so that's what's exciting. That's what's exciting about the offseason right now. That's what's exciting about getting 15 practice of spring ball. That's what's exciting about going into summer, because this is his first spring ball. He didn't have spring ball last year. So, there's a huge ceiling, but the biggest thing I love about him is he's focused, he's humble, and he's locked into taking it one day at a time.
Perry, how have you guys as a staff, especially in the secondary area, address those huge plays that were given up in the Michigan and in the Georgia game? What have y'all gone back and looked at, or that can be remedied, fixed, etc.?
It comes down to fundamentals, technique, and execution. Now as simple as that sounds, it comes down to those three things. And really and truthfully, you watch it, you address it, and then you attack it when we get on the field. And you put them in those very positions the best we can to make sure those things don't happen again. But at the end of the day, probably the most frustrating thing, it came down to those three things. And I know that we're more than capable of doing those things.
So if y'all address those, maybe y'all as a staff put some people in some situations that were, uncomfortable for them? I'm not talking about player-wise. What did y'all specifically address in those areas?
No, those guys had made those plays several times. It just, once again, it came down to a lack of fundamentals, technique, and execution. They weren't put into any situations that they hadn't been put in the past. And they'll tell you that. The one thing we won't ever do, we don't make excuses. We didn't execute the way we needed to, period, point blank. And so a lot of times, with that being said, you can kind of go back and say, well, this, well, that. No, we didn't do that. I didn't prepare them well enough. They didn't execute well enough. And that's why we're here this fall, this spring, this off season, grinding, because, we should have been there. And we should have made those plays. So there'll never be any excuses. The bottom line is I've got to coach them better, and they've got to execute better, and we will.
Perry, what's your first impressions? You guys haven't been on the field yet, but what's your first impressions when you see Malik in the weight room, training, things like that?
Malik's extremely explosive. Plays bigger than what he is right now. That's kind of the task that he knows, just being a pro about, putting the weight on. Our nutrition staff's doing a phenomenal job with him. And this, the biggest thing is he's smart. He's got a high football IQ. He's very, very versatile. So we're going to be able to do a lot of things with him. And the cool thing is he's here. He's here working out. He's here, early morning workouts. He's going to get 15 practices in. So I'm excited, on a number of fronts from him, but I've seen great progress from him in these 2 weeks.
And then there's a lot of sample size now of Jim's defense and the safeties in it at Ohio State, not just on his Oklahoma State film. Seems like teams late in the season were putting you guys, your safeties, in one-on-ones, whether it was Cam or Lathan. Has there been any talk between you and Jim and Tim about maybe cross-training more than you guys did last year, safety and corner, so when you get put in those positions again next year, it doesn't happen the way that it did this year?
It's a fluid situation. We know our personnel. We know our guys' strong suits. And we know in this defense we have to be multiple and versatile. I think with a year under our belt, we'll definitely be even more much improved. And we understand the challenges that lie ahead of us, and we're addressing those every day.
You already talked. Did you already speak on Jihad Carter? Just what's your first impressions?
Workmanlike.
Kid from Syracuse.
Workmanlike. He's got his head down and he's working. Once again, he came here because he wanted to be developed to be the very best. He understands the task that's at hand. You know, it's competition. You know, and you know the old adage, iron sharpens iron. And so far he's done a great job. He's just put his head down and worked, and that's all I ask. And he came here for a reason. He came here, one, to be the very best he can be, two, to win, you know, a championship, and to put himself in the very best position he can going on to the next level.
You say that you know your personnel. Does that mean you already go into spring and know you're going to be here and at Western Miracle, or is there any sort of experimentation that you guys will do throughout March and April to find it?
I've got a pretty good idea, but also what the spring allows you to do is experiment with some different things, you know, because you're preparing to win the Big Ten, and then you're preparing to go off, you know, and play in the playoffs and win a national championship. So understanding our personnel better, you know, allows you to do that going into year two of spring ball. The other thing is they know the system now, you know, so there's some nuances that we can add or subtract, but also you do have a chance to in the spring experiment now that they've been around me for a year, I've been around them, they know how I move, I know how they move, and so that's what's exciting for me year two, you know, spring two, is having the ability now to say, okay, hey, today let's do this, hey, today let's do this, because it's our job as coaches to kind of have some forethought for what's to come in the future.
I guess as an amateur on the outside, you look at it and say, well, you got 5 or 6 guys that you can play. How do you pick? I think we know that maybe Cam or Jihad can play in the middle. Nathan could probably play any of those 3 spots. So it's hard to figure what's it going to look like, because it does seem like you have more flexibility and versatility depending on what happens.
Right. And you said it best, you know, the versatility. I want guys that can do multiple things. So we can keep the offense. We can keep, you know, who's trying to scout us off balance. Plus, I want to play to our strengths. I want to play to each and every individual's, you know, strengths. And then where they're challenged, you got to continue to bridge the gap there. So that's what's exciting for me. And that's the part of the experimental part in the spring that, hey, you know, there may be days where we try some different things, because we do want to play with different combinations to see what fits the best and what's going to give us the very best advantages as we go into fall.
Perry, what's the conversation like with Brock and his decision to come back? I mean, it seemed, I think most people assumed that that wasn't in the realm of possibility, and now he's coming back. And where does he fit into this room?
Proc's he's a phenomenal athlete. I mean, he's dynamic, and I think, you know, obviously with the injuries before I got here, that kind of set him back a little bit, especially trying to come in and learn a new scheme, coming off of an injury, not being able to go through spring ball last year, and then trying to play catch up in the summer. So I think for Proc, you know, just coming to the realization that, man, you know, I want to put in some more work. I want to go out a winner. You know, with my brothers and my teammates, and I want to position myself and develop even more before I leave this place. You know, so I think for him it was more of a personal goal from I want to do better for my teammates and win, and then 2, position myself better to be an impact player before I leave this place.
When you have a guy make a decision like that, it's so expected. You add a player like Jihad Carter. You have young guys or guys that have been in the program for a few years waiting for their moment, and now you have new players who are brought in with the expectation that they're here to compete and probably play. You have a guy like Josh who's in his 6th year. You expect that he's going to at least have a real opportunity to take something.
Right.
How do you adjust the conversations with other guys?
The cream will rise. I mean, it's as simple as that. You know, through off-season workouts, through spring ball, the cream will rise. The guys that deserve to be starters or play, because you got to have depth. I mean, you know, our plan is to play well into January. So you got to have depth. So it makes for a long season. So for us, I want depth. I want guys that have different skill sets. And so Josh knows that, as well as each and every individual in that safety room. They understand that each and every day you have to bring it. Each and every day you have to come with your mind right. Each and every day you have to compete. and nothing is going to be given to you. So there's no guarantees for him. He understands that he still has to put in the work, just like each and every other one of his brothers.
You say that cream will rise. Eventually, there's got to be a point where you have tough conversations with some guys, though. Do you kind of let that all play out and then toward the end of the spring do that? Or how do you handle that? Because like he said, you bring in a guy who expects to play, bring back a guy who expects to play. You've got other guys who are coming back from injury or, still trying to find their way. At what point do you need to kind of start to sort a few things out?
You be proactive. I mean, those tough conversations have been had already. So everybody understands exactly where they're at. Everybody understands exactly what's expected of them individually and expected of them in the room. So it makes the transition, the process off season, the process going into spring ball a lot easier and more flow because we have clear and concise and direct conversations ahead of time. And so that's the way I like it. That's the way our room is. It's open, and so I don't foresee there being any issues. Everybody understands exactly what's in front of them. Now it's time to go get it.
As a coach, philosophically, how challenging is it to not just look at guys like Josh and Kai and Sonny and say, those guys got to be out there because they're freaks among freaks, right? But then there's the other part of the game where you have to balance how smart is he playing, how controlled is he playing. How do you balance what you see as the likely the top athletes you can put out there versus the best player?
It's just who they are from a mental standpoint, who they are from a physical standpoint. What are we going to ask them to do, and where do they fit in the matrix of our defense as we go into ball? And that's part of the experimenting in the spring, with some different things, some different combinations. The cool thing is we've got a ton of talent. We got a ton of guys that are hungry. We got a ton of guys that have an edge right now. And when those games like that happened on the 31st happen, that's what happens. Guys come back with a different mindset, a different hunger, understanding that, okay, it's not cool to just be right there. We got to finish what we started. And we talked about that from the very beginning of we're here to win national championships. And so for us, as far as the safety group, it's just about going to work and putting our head down and understanding that if I grind and I do the things that I'm coached to do, I do the things that I'm asked to do, the cream will rise and I will find myself on the field in some capacity, to help this football team win.
Hey Perry, you mentioned the relationship or the Josh Proctor being that elder statesman,
Yes.
and obviously his relationship with Kai, he kind of played that role last year, and see that role expanding with this new class, this new crop of freshmen. Is there more leadership attributes that Josh could, I guess, in his final year?
Kai's his own old man, but I think going into year two, there's a little bit more of a comfort level and understanding exactly how I operate, how they operate, how we operate, and what's expected of them on a daily basis, whether it be the off season, whether it be spring ball, and then they have a really good grasp of the scheme now. So now going into this off season compared to last season, there was a lot of uncertainties as far as, okay, how is coach going to respond, in spring ball? How's he going to respond in off season? How's he going to respond during the season? So now back, there's such a different flow and comfort level from myself to them and from them to me, and the expectation, they know what that is, and those things don't change. And so for me, it's just a matter of now, going into off season and spring ball and, having an opportunity to really, really work with them again and then experiment with some different things.
And I'm sorry if you've already been asked this, but do you have a position for Jihad Carter, out in the secondary? Do you know where he'll be placed or where you'll play him?
It's fluid,
Okay.
and all of them are fluid. That's the cool thing. Within our system, all three positions really have to do all three in some shape, form, or fashion. So right now, we're just in the process of evaluation and making sure that we're putting those guys in the very best positions to maximize their God-given ability, and also to put us in the very best position as a defense to execute at the highest of levels, because we understand the magnitude of how we have to play as a safety group in order to have success.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
We'll bring in Coach Tony Alford right